guys, welcome to Love and Honesty. We're excited to be back. It's been a while since we posted the very first one.
Yeah,
It's been a very long time, so we're
not
like,
very long, but yeah, it's been a little.
yeah, a little
We're gonna try to be more consistent.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Yeah.
We're working on it day by day. But we're happy to be back with another table talk. Not
Another
really table
episode,
talk.
another session.
Yeah. So you guys, of course, probably know what we're about to talk about based off the title. But before we get into that, I wanted to ask you, how was your week?
How was my week, man?
This past week, I know Hurricane Milton came through.
Yeah. So this past week, the hurricane. We actually went up to Atlanta. I was going for a project, but then I decided to take my family because I was like, "What kind of man would I be to leave my family here?" And this, all that. Absolutely. I wanted y'all to be comfortable with me safe, so I thought the best thing to do was just bring y'all with me. But it was cool. It was nice. It's nice to get away from the house a little bit. I was very much happy to be back in Florida, though. Be back
Yeah.
home or whatever. So I think it was a good week. It's cool. Got some work done.
That's good. That's good. I think, were you going to ask me?
Yeah, go ahead. How was your week?
It was pretty good. I think overall it was good. I mean, just coming back to our home, still being here.
Yeah,
It's great.
That's always
No damages. I mean, the thing that sucked is our fridge is completely
Yeah.
cleared. So I had to clear our fridge this morning, which is why I'm a little on the tired side. But you guys probably can tell a little bit. Probably not. Probably think this is normal. But anyway, so that was kind of a bummer. But I know the Lord will provide anyway.
The Lord provides.
Yeah. But overall, it was pretty good to get out of the house and do something different, especially for Jamie.
Yeah,
It was a little
it was a little much
Well,
though.
a little much
because we
because-
went from like, well, first of all, it took us 12 hours to drive to Atlanta, which is a 6-hour drive because of all the evacuation and everything, which was crazy for our 1-year-old sitting in the back seat. He did a good job.
great job.
He did his job. But then,
But I was happy to be home because
Yeah.
Jamie was just
yeah,
kicking me.
when you first got there, the
Oh.
hotel we booked had a pipe burst or a flooded or something. So we immediately checked. We went upstairs and came right back down. Like, we're not staying here. So we went to my best friend's house for that night, and then went to the hotel for the next 2 days or whatever. And then decided to stay an extra day. So went back to my restaurant. It was just a lot
of
for
moving, yeah.
Jamie to gives me stability. It's good for them. or
Yeah.
whatever.
So yeah, it was a lot of moving parts. And then on top of all three of us sleeping in one bed, which is not normal for us because at home he has his own room.
Yeah.
So I've been sleeping with my toddler
Yeah.
for the past 5 days.
Lots of fun.
And it was a lot of kicking, and he likes to talk in the middle of the night sometimes and sing and, all the things. But overall, it was a pretty good week. I enjoyed getting away for a bit. Okay, cool. All right, well, let's talk about our topic for the topic for the day.
What we got?
Year one.
Year one
Of us being married. What did that look like? So I have some questions I have wrote down. I don't know if I'm going to do these in order, but I guess I kind of want to talk about before. Let's talk about before we got married, kind of leading up to it.
Okay.
What were some of your expectations when it comes to marriage? And before you said I do, what are some things that you expected, I guess, in marriage?
Expectations.
I put what to expect after you say I do.
Yeah.
I guess not.
Yeah. Of our marriage, generally speaking, or of you?
I mean, I guess about marriage, really. Not
can't-
really about me, but mostly what do you expect?
I can't say that I had a bunch of expectations, to be completely honest. Maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. I just knew we were getting married and things were going to be a little different. Well, prior, not married the wedding, but when we actually said I do or whatever.
Oh, yeah, because for you guys who don't know, we got married at the courthouse on December 31st,
Yeah, 6 months later.
2020. And then
Actually
6
had the
months later,
wedding.
we had the wedding, yeah.
Right.
July 31st. So,
So the wedding, we were already living together.
yeah, we were already living together. We were married and all the
Right,
things. Yeah, but, so that's what he's referring to. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
Right.
So you didn't really have any expectations at all. You just kind of went in.
Yeah, because when we got engaged, shortly thereafter, we moved in together. And so we're already living together, doing these things and whatever. We weren't having sex, of course. And so I wasn't like, oh, we'll move in together and that'll be new or whatever. We were already doing that. for a little bit. So
But I mean, I get. Well, yeah. Okay.
I was just trying to think like expectations. I really don't think I had a lot. I was just happy. Honestly, I was just happy to be getting married to you. I
Right.
don't know if I had a bunch of expectations.
Okay. Okay. I think for me, as far as like expectations, I expected for us to kind of be in this like bliss, like, things to be very happy, very, not saying it wasn't, but like,
No, speak your truth.
okay. Because you hear a lot of people like that talk about the honeymoon phase
Yeah.
or, stuff like that. And I expected like this bliss, we spent a lot of time together before we got married. So like being at your apartment and stuff like that. So I had like some expectations of like how things would kind of go as far as like living together. I figured like we would have some difficulties, but we would kind of like, be in sync at some point. But I did not expect it to be as difficult as it actually was when we moved in and got married. Like just the two different lifestyles coming together. Because I stayed with my mom and then
Right.
you lived on your own, and I never lived on my own before. So like it was so many things
Yeah.
that was going on. I'm like, wait a
So this isn't specifically when we got married, like pre-marriage. This is like moving in together, living together.
Not necessarily, because when we moved in together, it was shortly after we got married.
It was like 6 months, wasn't it?
No, it was like,
Yeah, we were because we were engaged for a year.
no, we were not.
Okay, you're right. A year from the wedding day.
Yeah, we were engaged a year from the wedding.
From the
day.
wedding day, yeah. Which means that it was 6 months because the wedding day was 6 months after.
Oh yeah. Okay,
So we were moving together, living together, and engaged for 6 months before we actually
not
married.
necessarily 6 months. We didn't move in immediately after, babe.
Yeah, like the next month, pretty much. Yeah,
Okay.
we didn't.
Well, yeah, but I just expected things to be, I guess, a little bit more smoother and differently. So let me kind of fill you guys in on some of the things that took place with us moving in and stuff like that. So I don't know. We talked about moving in together,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we had plans. Like we kind of planned it out a little bit. Talked about moving in. We talked about getting married before the actual wedding day. We originally planned our wedding day to be in April. And then we
Yeah.
pushed it back because we wanted to make, we like the numbers in April,
Yeah.
but we pushed it back because we wanted a little bit more time to pay for the wedding. We didn't want to be in debt. So we pushed it back a little bit further. But I know we were going back and forth whether we wanted to get married prior to the wedding day and not, or whatever. So we couldn't settle on something, but we eventually did, and got married in December. But, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say one of the reasons we decided to get married.
For the wedding day?
Yeah. So one of the reasons was Jatisa was abstinent. At this point, I'm abstinent too, but I wasn't a virgin, obviously, whatever. But it became really weird and difficult for me as someone who had already had sex to be living with this beautiful chocolate woman.
Thank you. I'm sorry,
And-
I didn't have breakfast, so I got.
And I mean, she's walking around the house in the shorts, getting out the shower naked, yada yada, all this, but we're not having sex, and we living together or whatever. So that very quickly became frustrating for me or whatever. Other than that, I also felt like, well, what are we waiting for? Because like,
Yeah.
let's go ahead and get married.
Yeah, and I also agreed with that as well, which is why we ended up getting married early. And I think we would have gotten married sooner if I like came on board early, I guess, quicker as well. But I don't know. But for me, I wanted to wait to get married for the actual like ceremony, because I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like, I want to feel all the butterflies and the feelings. I want to be able to experience like, oh my gosh, I'm crossing over, like this is new. But what's funny is that I still felt that way on the wedding day.
For me as well.
Yeah.
I cried
Yeah.
on the actual wedding day, like watching you walk down the aisle. And then just like having our friends and family there. We spent the whole week just celebrating. We went to the boat. We do all this extra stuff or whatever.
Yeah,
and then
it was
like the
really
day
nice.
of, it was very much an overwhelming emotional experience or whatever.
I think we're getting off a tangent, so I'm gonna bring it back really quick. So I know for me, coming into never living with a guy.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I spent the night at your house prior to getting engaged and stuff like that, but never lived with a guy. I didn't have pets, so you had a dog. We have a dog, and so and this is just very new to me. Like even prior to dating you, I lived in like a very strict home, so I wasn't like able to date. I mean, after graduating high school, I was able to date, but even the person I was with, it was like, not the best situation. And so, so I was just very restricted on a lot of the things I could do as far as when it comes to dating. And so when I dated you and I had the freedom, I don't know where I was going with this, but I figured things would just be a little bit differently. So it was a shock to me moving in, and this is a brand new place. I've never been in this area. We moved to like DeLand, and so I've never moved out of Orlando before. I'm living with this guy.
This woman thought I was taking her like out the country.
I'm living with this guy, and I have a dog now who sheds everywhere. So like, and at the same time too, in that same space, I just learned that I deal with anxiety. So just learn all of those things. It was like, I was like, whoa, what is going on?
Yeah, it was like a shock.
It was
everything was
crazy.
like at once.
It was so crazy. I felt like, I mean, I wasn't feeling like I was living in hell or something like that, but like, it was just so much.
It was a lot.
It was tough.
I was shocked with you, not because I deal with adversity a little differently than my wife. Most men do a little differently than women, but it wasn't, I guess, like that stuff that got me. It was like, I guess, the newness of making sure I'm there for my wife while trying to keep myself sane, dealing, you know what I'm saying? Because there was a lot of stuff that I was like,
tough.
yo, is she okay?
It was really tough. It was really tough. I was dealing with a lot internally. And then just like I said, just becoming, I guess, comfortable in this new environment and in this new role. It was just, it took a toll on me mentally, physically, emotionally. It took a toll on me. So I didn't see that coming at all.
I remember one time I was just in my office doing some work or whatever, and I remember like walking into the bedroom and hearing her crying. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on or whatever. And I come in and she's like, I want to go home. And I'm like, you're home.
Yeah, I remember.
Where are you going?
Yeah.
You're here. You can visit your mama house, but you at home.
Yeah, I did. Because I just needed a sense of familiarity.
Yeah.
Like I felt like everything changed so fast. And the thing is, when we got engaged, like I basically didn't go back to my mom's house. And so, like I like left the life that I knew, I left it quickly.
I didn't expect you to do that so quickly.
Me neither.
Because even before we got the new apartment, like at like the night after she came to my apartment and didn't go home, it was never with home.
Apartment? You meant
The condo, yeah. I'm saying when we got the condo, the night after we got engaged or whatever, I think you had to like fly to Vegas or whatever, and then when you came back, you immediately packed your stuff and came to live in my apartment until we got there. You were like, oh, we engaged now, like
yeah. No, once again, that's because I didn't understand boundaries. That's a whole nother story.
Oh, we was engaged.
But yeah, we were engaged.
It was just
but
a very small space.
It wasn't planned.
Yeah.
Properly during that little time. But man, other than that though, I think the things that I did expect, like as far as like being let it that first year of marriage being blissful, like enjoying each other, going out doing things, like they always say like you guys make sure you guys be together and date and have fun together before you have kids, all those things. And so I had high expectations of that, just spending the quality time and the fun and all that stuff.
Got you.
And it didn't happen. As what I expected. I mean, it never did.
Yeah.
But it did not happen.
I think one thing that if we could go back, and one thing that maybe people should do as a new like about to be married couple is share their expectations of what we think this first year will look like or what we want the first year to look like.
Communicate that.
Yeah, because I didn't it seems like it makes sense or whatever, but that didn't really register to me because one of the reasons that didn't happen was because I worked a lot that first year or whatever. And the reason is because you'll always hear like the first year of marriage, the number one thing that ends marriages in the first year is finances.
Right.
So I was like, I want to make sure like that this not a thing or whatever. So like if I did anything, I was making sure that we had, the finances was stable, which we still had, struggles or whatever. But for the most part, we was well taken care of or whatever. And so that was just the forefront of my mind or whatever. And I completely didn't even think about, but kind of neglected, or it was on like the back burner, like, oh, actually spending time with my new wife. Like that, it just didn't occur to me. Yeah, it didn't occur to me, and I apologize.
No, it's fine. That's fine. I don't hold it against you.
Clear.
No, I definitely was well taken care of. And then on top of that too, because before we got married, I was working at the school before COVID had hit. But I was working at the school, and so I expected me to continue to work.
Yeah.
I did not expect for me to be a stay-at-home wife. And so it kind of like organically happened, I guess. And I've been a stay-at-home wife pretty much the entirety of our marriage. So that was just new for me. So a lot of the things that I thought was just like, little do you know, being single and not being experienced in marriage, it's like, I mean, yes, you can have realistic expectations. Maybe if you are around older married couples who, share some insight and stuff like that. But like, if you just thinking like what you see on
This
movies,
finna be a freeze.
yeah, things. I mean, just like I don't know how to articulate it, but I just feel like coming into the first year of marriage, I think that's what you said earlier, communicating to your partner, what does that first year of marriage look like? Because I feel like that can help you, I guess, build a strong foundation for what the rest of your marriage will look like, I guess, in a way, because you'll, of course, both grow together and things like that. But I think that first year kind of sets the tone.
Yeah.
Really, for the rest.
Yeah, I think just communicating that not only can like help the other person show up in ways that they might not have thought or whatever, but I think too it might what's the word? It might help make those expectations and those thoughts more realistic, because sometimes we think things, especially about marriage, before we get into it, that afterwards you realize that didn't make any sense in the first place or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, going into it and be like, oh, I expect you, wife, to cook every night. Well, like, she might be like, oh, I'm glad you said that because I didn't know. And I'm not going to cook.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's not really realistic, especially just going into a first year of marriage, because there's so many unknowns. Like, there's the stuff that that you're going to have to, but there's a lot of stuff that you have no clue that's even going to be a struggle or a battle. Like,
Right.
I had no clue I'd be arguing over where I put my underwear. Like, never was a thought to me before or whatever. And now, oh my God, like we ready to throw blows over.
Not even that. Just like I never thought that I'd be going crazy over fur on the floor.
Yeah.
Oh, that.
Yeah, drove her nuts.
Oh, it drove me. It still does, but it's so much better now because
We got a little automatic vacuum.
we figured out.
We get them combed.
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's still.
Yeah, it was.
But that first year, oh my gosh, I felt it was just horrible. It was horrible.
Yeah.
But I think. Well, I wanted to mention this before I go into what I think was really good about the first year, because I feel like we talked about the struggles. But I think that if I could go back, I think I would have communicated better that I would like for you, like you said, talked about you working a lot. Like I would like for you to kind of be in the moment with me. And because you worked, like he worked a lot. Like my husband, he's a very hard worker. Very, very hard worker and a great provider. And I appreciate that, sweetheart. And that first year, he didn't know balance.
No, I didn't. I don't.
He did not know balance. So he would work basically 22 hours every day and sleep for 2.
Okay.
What is what it felt like, really, because you were like on call you were at your desk most of the time, and there were of course times where we did go out.
Yeah.
I'm not forsaking that. We did go out and we did some things or whatever. We didn't really travel. We're not really travel type of people as far as like
No, we need to do more though.
we do need to do
Yeah.
more. But our honeymoon was amazing though, even though we had some stuff with that. We gotta talk about that another time.
Yeah.
But yeah, you worked a lot. So it was I appreciate it because, our house didn't lack and we had everything we needed. But I would have loved to have my husband be present.
Yeah.
Because even during that time too, like I talked about earlier, I struggled with, I just found out that I had anxiety.
Yeah.
And it was bad.
It was bad.
Like
It was.
I was telling a friend of mine not too long ago that I used to like hear people in church be like, we come against the spirit of anxiety, we come against the spirit of fear, we come against the spirit of blah 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 blah. And I used to be like, Lord, help them with anxiety. Lord, help them. Like, not even knowing that I struggled with anxiety my entire life. I didn't know what that was. I thought it was normal until I met you. And you being cool, calm, collected, like not saying you don't ever experience moments of anxiety, but like you're not an anxious person. And so when I saw that, I'm like, oh, so, you just being you helped me to realize like, okay, I deal with anxiety very, very badly. And so, so that first year of marriage, I started taking therapy.
Yeah.
And which really, really helped a lot. But when you start therapy, you start to become more aware of things, and then you start to have panic attacks and anxiety attacks, and like it got worse. It gets worse before it gets better. So like that took a toll on our marriage because I didn't know how to deal with it. You didn't know how to deal with it. Like it was very new to the both of us. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Yeah, that was definitely a thing as well because again, like I'm forefront of my mind is like being the provider, being the protector. I didn't learn the nurturing, supportive, being there for my wife part of being a husband or whatever till a little bit later, maybe like a year or two-ish, especially when you got pregnant, it really needed to kick in then or whatever. But forefront of my mind at the beginning was like protecting, providing for or whatever. And so that also really like created like a little bit of a rift between us or whatever because I'm like this ungrateful. I'm like, what is she? I'm like, what are you complaining about, bro? I was getting so mad because I'm like, because I couldn't see the other side of it. All I'm looking at is like, bro, you fed, you got a nice home, you good. I'm like, what are you complaining about or whatever? So I used to just drive me because I'm like, I couldn't see the other side or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And from the flip side of that, I felt like you weren't showing up because you were working so much. And so I felt like that support wasn't there, which was not true because you were supporting me in so many different ways, whether it was just being with me in those moments where I was having attacks or like being, praying with me or, making sure that I'm staying on top of going to therapy and stuff like that. So you were showing up, but it just wasn't in the way that I guess I felt like I needed.
Yeah.
And like I said, because it was so new to us, like this was a foreign territory that we were both trying to just figure it out together. And I think we did a pretty good job.
Figure it out.
We finally got over the hump. Yeah. But that first year of marriage, to sum it up, it was just not what I expected. And I think it definitely allowed us to grow and to come closer, to become closer. And to become closer, and our love grew, our respect for each other grew. We learned so much about ourselves and just
ourselves and each other. And us together.
Yeah, so it was definitely interesting.
I think the one thing that we never struggle with, to this day that we never struggle with, which I commend us on or whatever, is since the day we got engaged, it's always been like us two against the world. So like any issues that we had or whatever, obviously like internally between us, like, that could be like, oh, I don't want to talk to you today, or, what I'm saying, I'm sleeping on the couch, stuff like that or whatever.
Right.
But it was never like us letting like parents or friends or anyone else come between us and us taking like, nah, it was us two and like the rest of y'all can, what I'm saying, that was never an issue.
Yeah.
which I think is good because that can be a huge thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it also, that first year, it helped me to become better at communicating because I didn't grow up talking much. I didn't grow up talking much. Like I didn't grow up in a family where like we communicated something like that. Thank you. Oh,
Just
so,
fries. Yeah. There you go.
oh, thank you. I grew up in a family where we didn't like really talk about our feelings and emotions or, I mean, if it really was like the children or the kids got to like be quiet and stuff like that. So I didn't understand how to articulate my emotions and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And so like I'm not even gonna say it. I'll say it. So it was so bad to the point where like Carl and I we would be in the car, which was often because we spent a lot of time together. We'd be in the car together and I'd be completely silent the entire ride, looking out the window.
Yeah.
And we barely talk. And it's kind of crazy to think
To
that
think
that
about
was
it
how
now.
that's how it
Yeah.
was. But like
'Cause now I can't even play no music.
I was so quiet, and it was because I was in my head. I was talking to myself in my head. I was being anxious. I had a lot of anxious thoughts.
Yeah.
And so that first year of marriage, like I said, going to therapy and stuff like that, it helped me to, and just you forcing me to communicate and talking, it helped me to become a better communicator and to articulate.
Yeah, there was this one instance, and I don't know if I handled this the best way.
Probably did.
This is the
I don't even know what it was. Whatever. No, just playing.
This woman, we were going through something. I don't even remember what it was, but she had written me a letter and placed it on the counter to read. Yeah, and it's not like she had left the house or something. She was in the other room, and so I came out and saw this. I mean, like an old essay. You know what I'm saying? Of like her feelings, and I didn't read it. I'm like, geez, I'm standing right here. Like, we can talk. I'm not gonna read this like you done died. Like, no, what are you talking about? Like, and like, maybe that wasn't the best way, especially if that's how you were used to it. Maybe I could have read it the first time and then came and talked to you, or read it and being like, I read your letter, but this isn't the way that I'd like for us to communicate. I was like,
Yeah,
you're
for sure.
crazy. We're not.
Okay, you can do that.
Let's talk. I didn't rip it, but
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Yeah, I just wasn't used to that because that's how I grew up. That's what I learned. Like me and my mom, we used to write letters to each other when we had like disagreements or things like that. We used to write letters, and so once again, I'm pretty sure she didn't learn how to communicate from her mom, and whatever. So like that's just how it was. And so
Yeah.
and then coming into our marriage, your family, y'all would talk.
Yeah.
Y'all would talk it out. Straight talk, direct. And so I'm not used to that. So that was very interesting for us to have our two different communicative styles.
whatever you say.
Sure. It's coming together and like it was difficult at first, but it forced me, like I said, to become better in the way that I speak. And I think I speak even better just in general.
Yeah, and it also forced me to be a little bit more patient as well because
Yeah.
I'm also like.
Yeah.
I'm a pretty like decisive and direct person or whatever. So like when we have a disagreement or whatever, I know what I want to say, exactly how I want to say it, like pretty much in that moment or whatever. And so sometimes I would try to force you to be like let's talk. And she's like, well, I can't. I need to collect my feelings and yada yada.
Yeah,
yada,
I need
yada.
time to process.
And so I had to learn because sometimes I would try to force her, and then the stuff that came out was like. Yeah, you do need some time.
Yeah,
whatever.
Because even till this day, I still need time to process.
Yeah, but I've learned to be
Quick on
like,
my feet. Yeah.
whenever she's ready to talk, we can talk about it.
Yeah, I need to organize my thoughts. I need to make bullet points in my brain. That's just the way I think. And so, but I mean, you helped me to not take so long.
Yeah, sometimes it'd be like,
Yeah, I used to really take a long.
it's been a week.
Right. But I wanted to ask you a question. So let me make sure I'm looking at my notes. Just so y'all know, when I look at my phone, it's not to be on social media. I'm looking at my.
I don't think they thought that.
I'm looking at my notes. Just saying, So if you could change anything about like what you did during our first year of marriage, what would it be?
If I could change anything.
About you specifically. Maybe we can like flip it.
Yeah.
Spouse, but what is something you would have changed?
I think I would just be more intentional about paying attention to you and spending time with you, like we were saying earlier. Just be more intentional about that. I think no, men cannot read women's minds, even when you've been married to them for whoever how long. I mean, at this point, I still can't or whatever. And from what I hear, it's quite impossible. But the more you know a person, you do obviously begin to learn them or whatever. And I think I lost a lot of time not paying attention to you, not learning you the first year or whatever. Even when you weren't as good as communicating, I could have been a little bit more, could have reached a little bit more. I think so, if I was paying closer attention to you.
That's good. I think for me, if I could change something, I would have wished that I was more aware of my red flags and my, I guess, toxic traits, if that is even a thing. Like the anxiety part, if I would have known that I was this anxious person, I think I would have taken action before getting married, because I feel like, of course, we can't completely be healed, completely be like this perfect person before getting married. I don't think that's such a thing, because you'll always be working on something. We'll always be pressing toward the mark,
Right.
For the rest of our lives. But I think that if I was more aware of myself and have taken time to do more self-reflections, noticing like, okay, I mean, not noticing, but realizing I need to work on some things, I would have done that. I would have taken time, maybe going to therapy, maybe just doing the work. So that way I wasn't bringing, like I said, a ton of baggage into our marriage.
Yeah.
Even though the Lord has used it for his glory and like gotten us to where we are today, I would have loved to just take an opportunity to do that. I think it's honestly all of that, because everything I'm about to say is really self-reflection, but just even like during that first year of marriage, I was like doing stuff like Bell's Outlet, like I was doing the sponsorships, partnerships with them. I was just trying to find like certain things to do, and then not working during that first year, I didn't know what to do with myself.
Yeah.
And so I wasted so much time when I could have been using that time to spend with the Lord, to do whatever he has called me to do in that season. Like I feel like I've lost, I feel like the Lord can always buy back those years and all those things. But I feel like I lost so much time just really doing nothing. Yeah, I was cooking, I was cleaning and all those things, but like I didn't take the opportunity to invest in myself and like do things that I loved, and growing in the word and all those things. I'm doing it now, but I just wish that I utilized that time, because you was working, I was home cleaning, cooking, and I had so much time to just, I could have did whatever, really. I could have did anything.
I think it's easier to realize how much time that was there now, because we have a baby and there's no time.
And the thing is, though, even with the child, I'm learning this now, even with the child, because people say like, times are limited and stuff like that. There is still time. Just got to find it. You just got to be disciplined, and you have to have, time management, all that stuff like that. So yes, it of course is a lot more tedious than it would be without a child. But man, I thought I could have. Thank you. But I wish I utilized that time well.
Yeah.
I want you, for those who are,
baby. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. For our viewers who are watching, what advice would you give someone who is thinking about getting married, or maybe they are engaged, or maybe they just got married? Like we have a friend that just got married. What is some advice you would give them about their first year of marriage? Or not the first, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What is some advice?
Remember your training. I don't know.
Remember your training.
As in premarital counseling. I think premarital counseling is very important.
Yes.
Because I think it's that's a hard piece of advice to give, because I think it's such a case by case scenario. And so I would say get premarital counseling prior to, and then remember whatever it is that y'all went over in premarital counseling, and even refer back to those counselors or whatever if you can. We did that a lot because we're
Yeah,
very
we
good,
talked
very close to the couple that married us, and they did our premarital counseling or whatever. So we went back and spoke to them a lot, and that helped us out a lot or whatever. Because sometimes you feel like you're the only person experiencing it. This is like
Right.
it's just my wife is crazy. Like it's just me. I'm stuck
Right.
or whatever. And so it's good to know that one, other people have gone through this, and then two, just getting advice from someone who's been doing it for longer or whatever, and has your best interests at heart.
Yeah, and I think sorry, I'm trying to write down my thoughts so I don't forget it. I think what's just to piggyback off what you're saying, making sure that you are speaking to mentors or whoever that are gonna be biased. So that's gonna be on both in y'all corner
That are not going to be biased.
that are not gonna be biased. Sorry, thank you. Yeah, because I think that somebody who has wisdom,
Yeah.
someone who maybe has been in the game, it'd be smart to be, speak to someone who has been married for a while, happily married.
Because some people married for 50 years and they hate each other.
Yeah,
Try and find
yeah.
somebody that's
Happily
like, they like
married,
each other still.
happily married, yes. Wisdom, God fearing, I think is very important.
Yeah.
I mean, if you believe in the
you're
Lord,
watching this,
I would assume that
probably,
you believe
yeah.
in the Lord if you're watching this. But God fearing, you want to seek, those type of people. Because I think that was really important because not only did we get advice from them that it wasn't because they knew you mostly.
Right.
I was new meeting them, kind of sort of not really, but they knew you for a long time.
Yeah.
So for them to not just be on your side, but to
Right, yeah.
and they it was very balanced
Yeah.
in their advice. And I also want to say too, some advice would also be that especially for those who maybe are living together with your significant other, maybe you already have kids, whatever. It may feel like you guys are already married, and then you kind of just finally, go and actually get married and sign the papers or whatever. Don't expect it to be as it was already before being married. I think that once you go before the Lord, sign that paper. After that,
Yeah.
things will shift.
Yeah.
Things will shift. I think because you're doing it the Lord's way.
Yeah.
And the enemy hates marriage and families.
Right.
And and then also you're in a legally binding commitment.
Yeah.
Like before, your boyfriend, girlfriend, anything can happen. You can just split ways whenever. Now you literally went before the Lord and before maybe people, if you've had a wedding or whatever, and you said you're going to be with this person for the rest of your
I
life.
think it's kind of like a mental thing in the back of your head, knowing now I can't leave.
Right.
That kind of adds a little bit of pressure.
Right. But things definitely will shift because I know some people who, like I said, are about to get married or they just got married and they may have already been living together and things like that. I mean, we lived together before we got married, but yeah, things will definitely be different. And I think that just coming with the expectation that, it won't be the same. And maybe that's a good thing because maybe it'll change a little bit. But I also think that just know that realistically speaking, things will shift. Maybe for the better, maybe for the worse. But I think that if you just go in saying, no matter what, we're going to do it together. We're going to stick through it together. It'll all work out.
Yeah. I could add one thing though. I just thought of
Yeah,
it.
more things, babe.
Nah, just this one thing would be good. And this may seem almost like common sense or whatever, but it's not, especially in practice or whatever.
Socks. Sorry. Be cold.
Your new spouse is the most important person in the world now. They have to be your priority. No one else is more important than your wife. No one else is more important than your husband. And that's something we were able to master quickly, and I think that's good or whatever. But coming into marriage and having your parents or your friends or your siblings or whatever as a support system, depending on how close you might be to these people or whatever, no one's gonna forgive your spouse as quickly as you are, if ever, depending on what happens or whatever. And no one's gonna see them the way that you do or whatever. So for one, be careful how you talk about your spouse or what happens in your marriage to other people or whatever, because they're going to remember it after you forget it. And then two, just you have to prioritize them. Like people are going to come against, especially if they don't like or this and that. People are going to come against it or whatever. Unfortunately, and you just got to remember that there's no one else. There's no one more important than that other person. Not your mama, not your daddy, not your sister, your brother, not even your kids when you have them. There's no one else more important than your spouse. And I think that can be a difficult thing to put in practice sometimes or whatever, prioritizing that other person.
Yeah, and I also like to add that what's very important first year of marriage and for the rest of your life is keeping God first.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that looks like, you having your own time with the Lord, your own devotion time with the Lord. Wives, it is important that we have time with the Lord because we are intercessors for our family. And so, of course, husbands have the time with the Lord and then coming together.
Yeah, that time together.
And have that time together. And I think that itself is really going to, like I said, set the foundation for your marriage, and for, just making sure that the principles, values, structure, all the things are being aligned with the Word of God.
Yeah.
And just being led by the Holy Spirit. Especially, like I said, that's why I said it's so important that women are spending time with the Lord, because the men are the head of the household, and you guys are getting direct, I don't even know what to call it. I mean, instructions and things for the family. It's God, men, and women. So it's like, not to say that women don't receive instruction from the Lord or receive or hear the Lord, because we do, but we have to make sure that we are constantly praying for our husbands and just going before the Lord.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to say?
I think to add to that, of course, man. Actually, obviously, make sure you are like in constant communication or whatever, because that will make your wife more comfortable. So it'll make your wife more comfortable to follow when she sees that you are connected or whatever. That's something I didn't do so well the first year or whatever. And then two, to add on to that, husbands, remember that your wife is learning how to be a wife.
Yeah.
And wives, remember that your husband is learning how to be a husband.
So good.
They may not be the best leader, the best decision maker, the best husband or whatever out the gate. And that's because they've probably never been a husband before. You have to learn it. Wives never been a wife before. It's something you have to learn or whatever.
Good.
Yeah.
That was so good. I'm going to just sit with that for a second. That's so good, because we can be so easy to not give grace during that first year.
Yeah.
Because we forget, like, we never did this before. This is new territory. I mean, like I said, this might be different if you've been married before. It's your second, third, or fourth marriage. I don't know. But, that first year, I mean, grace. We have to extend grace to one another.
Yeah.
Be patient.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Patience is important.
The Bible says, wives, submit to your husbands. Husbands, loves your wives. It says submit to one another, but then after that, it says what I just said.
You forgot, you didn't finish. Love your wife as
Christ loved the church. Yeah. And so what does the Bible say love is? Love is kind. Love is gentle. Love doesn't keep any record. Love a bunch of other things or whatever. I don't know off the top of my head or whatever. Look them up for me, please.
I got you.
So it's like, again, knowing that your wife is becoming and learning how to become a wife, you have to be patient, be kind, be all of these things or whatever. Love your wife or whatever. In all of these ways. Sorry.
It's okay.
While she's still learning, even if it may seem like, she don't deserve it, I guess, or she's not whatever. You have to still follow those directions. How can I explain this? You have to follow those directions even if you don't see like the end point, or even if you can't see like how it all makes sense, or even if you don't think that it necessarily makes sense or whatever. In the same way or whatever, when it says wives, does it say wives submit or wives follow? Whatever it says.
Wives submit.
Yeah. Your husband may not be the best, like I said, leader, decision maker out the gate, but you can't not follow him because he makes a mistake or because he's not the best decision maker or whatever. Because that structure is set up for a reason. We're supposed to play these roles and do these things for a reason or whatever. And you can't step outside. It's not good to step outside of that just because you think it doesn't necessarily make sense or whatever. You have to continue to help him become. You have to continue to help her become or whatever. Because like I said, we're just not going to be great out the gate. Great out the gate. That's a t-shirt.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I think that I feel like someone who's watching this might be like,
Oh, yeah.
but he's wrong. Why would I follow him if he's wrong or if he makes mistakes? Or like, I see he's clearly irresponsible. Why would I allow him to lead as my husband? And so I think that it's important for us to, of course, submit as far as like, not just submit by following our husbands, but also to submit
To help.
our suggestions. We can submit suggestions. We can submit what we, that's the same. I was going to say what we think. Maybe our ideas. Maybe we're a little bit more organized, so we can be like, "Hey, babe, I can do this." But I think primarily, if you are struggling in an area where your husband may not be the best leader, I think that it's important that we still submit ourselves as wives, but also be prayerful.
Yeah.
If there's some areas where you see your husband is falling short, you should be praying, as to help him in those areas, because prayer will work. It's not like just a last minute last resort. Like, okay, all right, I'll pray now. But like, it should be the first thing. Like when you start to see some areas that are lacking, that's when the Lord can come in. He'll strengthen. He will give him the wisdom. He will guide him. He will help him become better and a leader for your home. So I think, submitting. I think that should be a whole nother topic too.
Real quick. Also, because I see a lot of women or whatever, in relationships and not or whatever, that are like, oh, I gotta raise a man or whatever, or I gotta be his mom, or I gotta do this because he, yada 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 yada. He'll never learn to accept that responsibility. He'll never feel that weight on his shoulders. He'll never be molded into the man, the husband, the leader, the father that he needs to be, as long as you're doing that. As long as you're taking on the weight and operating as if you're him, then he'll never have the opportunity to learn and grow. He'll never be able to make a mistake and then have to fix it or whatever. He'll never, he'll just never experience that, because as long as you're holding the weight, which is going to crush you at some point, as long as you're holding the weight that isn't yours, he's not holding it. He's never going to feel that responsibility. And so pressure makes diamonds. He'll never be turned into that man that he has to be or whatever if you're always doing his job. You know what I'm saying? So that's why you really got to and the same thing, vice versa or whatever. A lot of times as men and as the protectors, as providers and yada, 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 we want to completely cover and help and do everything. What your wife is never going to learn to hold the weight that she has to hold, or to do the thing if you're trying to do it all. And eventually that weight will crush you as well. You're not that strong. It's a partnership for a reason.
It's good. I wanted to read the scripture that you said earlier. It's 1 Corinthians 13. It says, love is patient. Love is kind. Love does not envy. It is not boastful. It's not arrogant. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not irritable. That's like, oh, Lord. And does not keep a record of wrongs. Love finds no joy in unrighteousness, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things.
Amen.
I'll just leave it at that. So, yeah, I mean, we learned a lot. I would say you learned a lot in year one. Honestly, then we can end the day. We'll have to break this up in two parts. But, what I will say, though, is that although if we had been able to go back in time to change some things, to be honest, I think that I wouldn't change it because it's helped us to grow and to learn.
Yeah.
I'm learning now that failure and mistakes is not a bad thing. It's something that will help you grow.
Right.
And so I think that helped our marriage grow. And, thank God that we were able to sustain
Right.
those difficult times or whatever. But it still was a blessing at the end. That's why the scripture says in Romans 8 that all things work together for good.
What version was that?
I don't know.
Let's-
Well, all things work together for good, and they really did.
Right.
All of it did. It worked together.
For the
It's
good of
for-
those that love him. If you love him, if you don't love him, that ain't none of our business.
Love him like I do.
Amen. Let's wrap this.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for tuning in for today's episode. I hope you guys were able to get something, or I don't know.
Whether you got something
Whether
or you
got
just
something,
enjoyed
that was
watching
just-
us talk.
Yeah. We appreciate you guys being here. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to our channel.
Yeah.
We would like to, of course, continue this, and we would love for you guys to continue to hop on and watch us talk,
Yeah.
I guess. But like this video if you do, give it a thumbs up. And yeah, I love you.
I love you. Honestly.
Honestly, okay. Peace
All right.
out, guys.